Welcome to all of you, our chief guest, our honorable speakers, management of the institutions, faculty members, distinguished faculty members, please, dear students, our non-teaching employees, and all those who are remaining online, welcome to all of you. Today's our topic is role of technology in education during COVID-19. We know this is very hard time for us, but we just believe in God, believe in destiny. SK Law College is highly glorified to organize the program of today. At first, any work or any performance is to be begun with Ganesh Bandhana, the God of intellect. Subham Karoti Kalyanam, Arogyam Dhan Sampada, Satru Buddhi Vinasaya, Deepam Jyoti Namastute. I pray to light, pray to God to bring prosperity, auspiciousness, abundance of wealth, and destructions of the enemy's intellect. At first, I would like to invite Dr. Srimati teachers of pre-law.
आवाज आ रहा है सर आपको?
Madam, you are humbly requested to begin the program with Ganesh Bandhana. Madam,
आवाज नहीं आ रही सर.
हाँ, आवाज जा रही है मैडम? हाँ,
आवाज नहीं आ रही.
हाँ,
तुम्हारे में आवाज आ रहा है?
Do you listen to me? आप सुन रही हैं हमको? मैडम, do you listen to me? आप सुन रही हैं हमको? सुन पा रही हैं मैडम?
नहीं सेक्रेटरी कॉल उठा सर. हेलो बोल रहे
मैम, आर यू लिसनिंग टू मी? आपको सुन रही हैं? मैम,
हेलो हेलो हेलो, हम बोल रहे हैं, आवाज आ रहा है?
मैम,
हेलो जी सर.
हाँ, आप गणेश वंदना के साथ मैम.
जी सर.
प्लीज प्रोसीड अहेड. गणेश वंदना के साथ
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Myself, Dr. Archana Anupam, lecturer SKJ Law College. And now start my Ganesh Vandana. हे गणपति गज बदन विनायक को पहले मनाए जी, आना कानी मत करियो जी, तुम्हारी कृपा चाहे जी। हे गणपति गज बदन विनायक को पहले मनाए जी, आना कानी मत ना करियो, तुम्हारी कृपा चाहे जी। हे गणपति गज बदन विनायक, माथे मुकुट निराला तेरा, गल मोतियन की माला है, पार्वती का लाल कहाए, गणपति शिव का दुलारा है। रिद्धि सिद्धि तेरे अंग में सोहे, उसे की असवारी है। हे गणपति गजबदन विनायक, तुझको पहले मनाए जी, आना कानी मत न करियो, तुम्हारी कृपा चाहे जी। हे गणपति गज बदन विनायक, रनत भवर घर आप विराजो, दुखियों का दुख दूर करो, जो भी तुझको मन से भावे, उसकी इच्छा पूर्ण करो। हमरी लाज रखो हे गणपति, मन तुझको पुकारा जी। हे गणपति गजबदन विनायक, को पहले मनाए जी, आना कानी मत ना करियो, तुम्हारी कृपा चाहे जी। हे गणपति गज बदन विनायक, भोरनाथ को देने वाले, सबकी नैया खेते हो, हम सब तेरे शरण में आए, क्यों ना दर्शन देते हो। तुझे राज रखने को आए, मोदक भोग लगाया जी। हे गणपति गज बदन विनायक, को पहले मनाए जी, आना कानी मत न करियो, तुम्हारी कृपा चाहे जी। हे गणपति गज बदन विनायक, हे गणपति गज बदन विनायक, हे गणपति गज बदन विनायक। थैंक यू।
Thanks a lot, man. हमें सबका मन मोह और this is an enormous force that have been itself. मैम इससे कंटिन्यू करते रहे और ईश्वर को याद करते रहे इस पैंडेमिक पीरियड में। I would like to invite our most respected director sir, Dijan Kumar, says welcome address to our honorable speakers. Sir, please express your welcome address. Sir Dijan Kumar, sir,
Honorable Sri S.K. Misra Sahab, President of the institution, Srimati Dr. Ujjwala Misra, Secretary, guest speakers, Mr. Santosh Kumar, Solicitor, Cardiff, Wales, UK, Mr. Kanishk Narayan, former civil servant and senior advisor in the Prime Minister's Implementation Unit in the United Kingdom, Professor Dr. Ajay Kumar,
मैडम डांट रही हैं, अलग रही
सर
डॉक्टर लगा दीजिए यहाँ डॉक्टर। इस साथ साथे साथे बैठा हुआ है, पता नहीं उसको नहीं पता चलता है। हाँ हाँ
सर प्लीज
तो अलग अलग बैठे चले ना हो जाता दिया रहने दीजिए।
यही से
वहीं से वो म्यूट किए हैं अपने जय। हाँ यहाँ से नहीं।
अब बोलिए
शुरू से
हाँ सर प्लीज कंटिन्यू सर।
Honorable Sri S.K. Misra, President of SKJ Law College, Srimati Dr. Ujjwala Misra, Secretary, guest speaker, Mr. Santosh Kumar, Solicitor, Cardiff, Wales, UK, Mr. Kanishk Narayan, former civil servant and senior advisor in the Prime Minister's Implementation Unit in the United Kingdom, Professor Dr. Ajay Kumar, Professor of Law, Chanakya National Law University, Patna, Dr. K.N. Tiwari, Principal, Mr. B.N. Azad, Vice Principal, all lecturers of the college, dear students and the staff of the college. Mr. Nitish Srivastava, Senior Vice President, JP Morgan, Hong Kong, has also joined us. On this auspicious occasion of International Baby Day, I welcome all the guests and participants who joined us. It is a matter of great pleasure for us to organize
अरे हेडफोन चल रही है वैसे पान बोलने
in the whole of my life. I have never experienced what
कहाँ पर से होगा तो यही बोला आवाज जा रही है हेलो सर आवाज जा रही है सर हेलो सर यही बोला करेगा टेस्ट वाले
दूसरा फोन रखा दो तो फोन दिए अपना दिए हाँ आ रहा रास्ता में
all the persons who have joined, and I am really grateful to the management who have given opportunity to organize this. I am also grateful to the guests speakers who have given their valuable time. Thank you.
हाँ सर हेलो सर कंटिन्यू हाँ सर हाँ फुल कीजिए स्क्रीन फुल कीजिए ना हाँ थैंक यू सर टेक्निकल is regretful sir now please listen to me sir I Dr. K. Tiwari principal
Honorable President Sri S.K. Misra, Madam Secretary Dr. Srimati Ujwala Misra, our chief guest Honorable Santosh Kumar, Solicitor in Cardiff, Wales, United Kingdom, Mr. Kanishka Narayan, MBA from Stanford University, United States of America. Our guest of honor, Professor Dr. Ajay Kumar, Chanakya National Law University, Patna. Our most respectable Director, Sir, Sri Jayant Kumar, Professor Brajmohan Azhar, Vice Principal, distinguished teachers, staff, and students. We, the college family members, are highly glorified today to organize the webinar on today's burning topic, role of technology in education during COVID-19. In presence of such luminous personalities, we feel gratitude and express our joy for your kind consent to deliver lecture on the topic of today. We know the global pandemic has brought a massive hit on every section of life, and the human beings have been facing hard time like catastrophe for the last 6-7 months. This is fact that the infections are the biggest threat and the reason for the marathon closing of our schools, colleges, and universities. Hence, we are passing through an alarming situations which puts students' health on high risk. But our education systems must be continued despite confronts the worst crisis of every sphere of life during the century. The gross inadequacy of technical devices and the technological process are exposed of, and it requires a radical and complete overhauling. The central and the state government to make an honest and best effort to bring the total education systems on track, because good education is necessary like food and water. This is unfortunate situations for us that most of the government schools do not have a complete infrastructure, and they are very far from the modern technology to provide better home schoolings. Thousands of the private schools locating in the urban and the rural areas of the country are, and the teachers are spending so pathetic conditions because of the students drop out, and they are doing odd jobs like fruits and vegetable sellings, which is tantamount to the national stigma. Another big reason is that closure of small businesses and the massive internal migrations. The parents are compelled to withdraw their children from schools. The modern technology like online classes, e-learning, e-contents, video classes, TV and radio programs, etc. must be provided to the deprived classes very soon, and thus the future of India would be safe and secure. I hope our honorable speakers shall focus on this subject matter and suggest the proper solutions of the burning issues. Sir, I once again, Sarve Bhavantu, conclude my address. Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pasyantu Ma Kasyatu Bhagave. Thanks a lot, sir. Now, Sir Ajay Kumar, Professor Ajay Kumar, respectable sir, we are well known to each other. I have been knowing you for a long period of time since you are belonging to Bhagatpur, sir. You are hereby humbly requested to present your vision, sir.
Okay, very good afternoon to all of you.
Thanks, sir.
I'm thankful to Professor Jayant Kumar ji, who is my elder brother also. And when he talked to me about the role of technology for this in the education during this pandemic period itself. So I thought that I'll share something to say about that, how technology is playing an important role in the development of education. I have also faced, because since I am the university, and we have also faced the same. So I'll definitely share my own experience when we share it. Let us start with that it's not the phenomena is only prevailing in India. The global pandemic has hit the entire world, and nearly half of the world is affected to that. And the recent report of UNESCO, which has come, has said that around 1.3 billion students of the school and college are affected to that, because it's already closed or locked down. Now it becomes difficult for the institutions also to how to proceed it during the lockdown period, and this leads to a different kind of take the help of a different kind of a technology, where everybody has started from their own side that what other options are available to them, and they can share with the students. Now during this pandemic period, as education is being said, that education while in a physical classroom is there, that physical classroom is considered to be a teacher-centric education. Whereas in online classes, it just reverse. It is a student-centric education. Or rather, you can say it while you test it, and you will find that it is teacher as well as student-centric both, because both will have to be very, very cautious about while delivering the lecture. I have started with that during this pandemic, that where it is hit, it's a massive hit globally throughout the world itself, and has affected the economy of the entire world itself. So the education sector is also is considered to be the most vibrant sector, and which plays a very important role in the global economy of a country. So it is already affected to that because of this, and it is because of that it is essential to take the tools which are available to the institution, take the help of those tools which can deliver the work either in a form of a virtual classroom or in any other form as a technology transfer from one place to the another place. Now see that, now if you consider it, just see that what Aristotle has said long back. Aristotle has said that education is an ornament in prosperity and a refuge in adversity. Now, if you see this, what Aristotle has said about that education is an ornament, it is definitely an ornament, and it is in a prosperity itself. But it is while it is refuge is an adversity. Now, we do not consider that those students who have enrolled in our institutions are considered to be the refugee to that. We have to be more vibrant and have to react in the manner it is required. Now, this leads to that that it is not just for the benefit of the student itself, rather it is benefit for the future also. We cannot stop the education's institutions like that for a longer time. It cannot be locked down for a longer time itself. So there are certain technology has helped the institution. As I told you that recently UNESCO has come with one of the report, and in our country also the regulatory body has also demanded that which are those institutions are delivering the lecture or through the online mode itself, through different as a virtual classroom. So the the best method which is being adopted or available to those persons or to those institutions, looking into the eyes of those students who are in a very scared position, that whether they are going to in the classroom or not, whether they are going to be promoted or not, whether they are going to continue their education or not, or whether they are going to be admitted in the institution or not. These are the crises which has already developed, and that too it is required, because it is such a situation where it is required that institution comes forward first, and then help the government also, and help the student also to go rid of all those anxiety which are there in the mind of the students. Now, giving an example to that itself, though the University Grant Commission has already started a different mode of the teaching through online mode, which is one of the model is SWAM, which has started. MOCUS has been started. ICT learning has been started. These are the platforms where already available to the institution. And those institutions who has taken the help of this platform itself, they have continued their learning process itself with the students. They interacted with the student, and which the institution has found that they are able to develop such a system that even if such a situation will arise in the future also, they are ready to fight with this kind of a situation where the education will continue, not physically, but can be virtually, can be any other e-learning process which are there, are different tools which are available different tools are available where the students can also use those technology. Now, one thing is there itself that nowadays that everyone is having either laptop, or if they don't have the laptop, they have the desktop. If they don't have a desktop, they have the Android phones. It cannot be said that that it is not available. Almost all students, even in the rural area also, some of the rural area I agreed that there is no facility available, there is no internet facilities are there. But the process can be started with the help of the government institutions which has already providing the help to those institutions who are coming forward to help them for this e-learning process itself. So the technology which are there, that the adoption of the accelerated digital form of the technology has not triggered down the lockdown period itself. Rather, it is a more vibrant, and the students are engaged as they were engaged in a physical classroom itself, and they continue in their education process itself. The teachers are involved in the e-learning process also, though we are also learning through this technology, and we have learned a lot. Unless we practice it, we are unable to go into the technology itself. And the coming days which are there itself, even if it feels that there is a lockdown gets over or the pandemic gets over, there is a least possibility of a virtual class, of a physical classroom for more than 6 months itself. So we cannot sit down holding our hand itself, rather we have to help the student. Now, giving to that itself, in our university also, or in many other university also, when the moment the lockdown has taken place in 24th March, 25th, 23rd or 24th March itself, we have in the first week of itself we find that how we are going to proceed it with that. Now, since this is a very new university, we have hardly of the 15 years of university is there. We have immediately decided that we'll start with a different kind of a tools, and since the inception itself, we have never delayed our academic session even for the results for a single hour. The academic calendar which we are issuing in the beginning of the semester itself, and we are systematically following. So we have started learning through while we putting it in a video form to the students and asking them to go through it, and thereafter we tell them that if you have any problem itself, you can send us a mail. So we have tried it in a form of the video lecture itself, and we tell them that you can preserve it, you can go through it a number of times. Wherever you have a problem, we are ready to send us a mail. We are ready to help you. So we have started with this itself. Thereafter, we have started the different tools which are available, which we are using right now. Zoom is there, then other Microsoft team is there, MS Office is there, or WebEx is there, which we are using it for the purpose of a technology. But every institution will have to think right now itself that the technology has to be adopted if they wanted to continue in education itself. So there is a list of possibility that coming days what else will be there, what other pandemic will come and will stop the operation itself. It is not like that. So the technology which are there, which helps the UNESCO has submitted or the UGC has come up with a report itself. Though all the university in India has not conducted the examination, some of the university has conducted the examinations, because teaching, learning is in a process where a lecture can be delivered and that assessment can also be possible in this kind of a technology itself. Online examinations can be started, online evaluations can be started, and their assessments can be made, they can be promoted, the grades can be given to them itself. All these tools are available, and it is not very costly itself. Though we are maintaining the university, or all the persons who are involved in the institution itself, they are maintaining it. Since we are not physically available there itself, so we are curtailing the cost towards the establishment. So when we are curtailing the cost towards establishment, so these technology can be purchased by the institution and can be used for the purpose of further teaching and learning process. So in my opinion itself, we have conducted it and we face some of the problems. It's agreed that the problems are there. Internet accessibility is not available throughout. There are certain interruptions are there, but even though barring all those things, if you continue in the process of this, the new technology itself, we'll feel that we'll be able to achieve those, the desire of those students who are looking to the institution, that when their examination will be held, when the results will be published, when they go to the classroom, and when the virtual classrooms are, if you see that how the technologies has developed it, you can create a classroom atmosphere in the virtual classroom itself. You can create it's a software is available where you can create it that it is they are sitting in absolutely in a classroom itself. You can deliver the lecture there itself. They can ask the questions. You can answer them itself, though it is not physically, but it is a virtually. But this technology has helped the many institutions to come up to that itself. Rather, I can assure you that my university has completed the course, taken the examination, assessed it, and published the result. So we have in a time itself. Now today itself we have decided that how we are going for the next semester itself. So through that technology itself, we are starting our new session from the 4th of August itself. So it has to be planned by the management itself, where we have to carry out the continuous process of an education. We cannot sit down like that. Now see that it is a digital skill. So meaning thereby the skill which we have learned in a physical classroom, we have to re-skill ourselves in a digital form. We have to, there's a re-skilling and then a revolution. And you have understand it through the revolution process itself. The revolutions are there, industrial revolution, there are many revolutions which took place and has developed a certain system. So in a technology itself, we have to develop the digital form of a technology where we have to reskill ourselves, not to the teachers itself, rather the teachers as well as students will have to be reskill themselves, and they can avoid all those the obstacle which comes into the before them itself. It is also true that the technology requires the connectivity. So we are running in a 4G, though we are not getting 4G. Sometimes we get a 3G itself. Now we are switching over to 5G itself. So looking into that aspect itself, that whether 3G is available or 2G is available or 5G is available, whatever resources are available, if a 5G is not available, where we are not able to conduct the classes virtually, we can record the class, record the lecture, we can upload it, which can be sent to the student itself, and a student can go through it, can send their doubts to their concerned teacher itself, which can be, the doubts can be cleared by the teacher. So this process wherever the obstacles are, we have to fight with the obstacles. This pandemic has taught us some many kind of lessons that how to live. So when we are living in that stage itself, where we are in isolation, we are absolutely confined to our house, we are absolutely confined to the place, we are not able to move, and we are not able to meet anyone. But even though through this technology method we can meet virtually, so other methods are there, so we have to test it. Then how it has to be tested? It is true that in the beginning itself, someone has said that it requires definitely a financial assistance from the government. The government cannot give you everything. We have to create our own resources. And when we have to create our own resources, meaning thereby the role of the teachers will come first. He has to think that how they are going to contribute to their institutions. So you have many more ways you can start it. You have a diploma course, you can start the diploma course. You can start the certificate course itself by way of this collecting this kind of the fee which you get. You can contribute to the management, where management can provide you a different kind of platforms where you can deliver the lecture through that virtual mode itself. Meaning thereby that the government is ready to help you. Now it is only to us to approach to them. Now, recently, I had a meeting with the higher education director. While we interacting with the higher education director, they said that ICT learning has already been given. The huge quantum of the fund has been given to the state. Central has given a huge kind of fund, but no one has submitted any kind of a proposal to the state to provide them that what facility they want. So immediately thereafter, because we don't know about that, immediately after that, I made the proposal and had submitted to the state government and to the central government also to assist so that we can meet those exigencies which is unexpected. We do not know that when it is this lockdown gets over, this pandemic gets over, this may continue for 3 months, this may continue for 6 months, or another, as the WHO is saying that it will continue for a further year itself, unless there is a remedy available to them. So during this longer period, 4 or 5 months has already been crossed. We have already crossed 4 months itself. So we will not sit and idle itself. We have to start either in a form of a short course method. You can start it, a technology in a form of a short course. Every teacher has the Android phones. Through that Android phones, in a YouTube, you can record your lecture, upload it to the student itself. All the students have the WhatsApp group. The student has the mail itself. You can give them in a mail itself. You can create class-wise WhatsApp group itself, and you can post there itself. Get it clarified immediately through that. Meaning thereby the technology is there. As I told you that it is a digital skill. We don't know. From the last 7 or 8 years itself, we come to know about the Android phones. Before that, we are using the manual phones itself. So the technology has compelled us to learn that how the Android phone has to be operated. So like that, we have to practice it, that how we are going to use the technology, first without cost, thereafter there may be certain cost involved, which we can request the institution to come with together to solve this problem. So sitting in either in your house, sitting in your classroom itself, sitting in the institution, sitting anywhere in the world itself, you can have your class can be started at any point of a time, and that also requires absolutely a skillful management system for operating this. There is a certain etiquette in the online class which has to be followed. So teacher is considered to be ideal for the student. So naturally we have to think first. We have to think first itself that how we can have an idea. We cannot sit absolutely in a manner that sitting casually in a classroom and going to the classroom for delivering the lecture. As we are preparing for our own physical classroom, we have to be much more prepared in the virtual classroom. So it is in a real time, because once it is uploaded in the video form itself, this can be aired itself, can be placed somewhere itself. Anyone can read, can see that video, and that tells upon not only to the teacher, the reputation tells not only upon the teacher, rather on the institution also. So the preparedness must be there for the teacher for this bridging the gap between the physical classroom as well as the virtual classroom. Wherever necessities are there, so technology is already available to everyone. As you can see that we are using the Gmail. So in a Gmail itself, you can create your team. So you can create a team if you have the ID of all those students who are there. You just add those ID in the Google team itself, and you can start your class. In a Google team, you have more than 100 students. You can add more than 100 students itself. In MS Office platform, there is no restrictions of the students there itself. You can involve many more students in that itself in one class. So the technologies are there. I think I am crossing my time itself. There are other persons who are there are other speakers are there. So the challenges are there, but we as a teacher itself, we have to meet the challenges, and we have to think for a certain time itself that there would not be possibility of a traditional classroom program. Now we have to switch over for any form in a form of a digital classroom itself. So whatever the minimum technology is available to the teacher itself, they can use those technology, and I think that it's not a minimal technology. We are using the Android phones. You have a Google Team, you have an MS form, you can create WebEx is there. So you can just download it and you can start it. So you can add your students, you can clear their doubts in the classroom itself. So the entire whatever I've said you that it requires to have a certain quality. There are 5 qualities which I have identified it that it has to be that we have to think of that how to curate, how to co-create and leverage relevant about the quality content which we are providing to the students. So in a form of a context itself, we have to support the inductions in a novice form of the digital learning platform itself, which is connected in a digital form itself to the students. And you can use it is not that we are confined to one. We can use a various digital platform for the purpose of if any information is required to the students. So the moment we give them all those information to them, you will feel that it is a real-time operations, engaging the students as they have been engaged in the classroom. You can facilitate them. You can reinforce those. Even in the pandemic itself, it is being affected. You can reinforce it, and you can create absolutely a classroom. So I'm thankful to Professor Jayant Kumarji, who has given me an opportunity to share my experience about the digital technology. Thank you everyone for the patience hearing. Thank you, sir.
A lot. You have given your valuable time, sir. The institutions is expressing. I will thank, sir. You have asserted and showed many solutions of the today's topic. Sir, now I would like to invite our honorable speaker, Mr. Santosh Kumar, solicitor in Cardiff, Wales, United Kingdom. Sir, welcome to you once again. You are humbly requested to share your experience regarding the today's topic. Sir, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Thanks.
I am Santosh Kumar, solicitor and partner in an immigration-focused law firm here in the Cardiff, United Kingdom. I am grateful to the esteemed organizers of this webinar for asking me to share my views on the role of technology in education during COVID-19. I wanted to focus my remarks on the area I know best, how COVID-19 has impacted legal training and legal services based on my experiences of running a law firm here in the UK. To do that, I will focus on three areas: the short-term initial impact of COVID-19, the impact now as we start to ease lockdown in the UK, and the likely long-term impact of COVID-19 on education. But first, let me say a few things about COVID-19 here in the United Kingdom. The first cases of COVID were reported in the UK on 29 January 2020. At the time, we had no idea of the scale ahead. Our law firm continued as usual, courts were all functioning as usual, and legal education in universities and for trainees in law firms was continuing as usual. Since then, the UK has had one of the worst records on number of COVID cases in Europe. We went into a national lockdown in the middle of March. Our office was immediately shut and we have all been operating remotely. The courts were initially shut and are now only selectively opening up for criminal cases and the most urgent cases. Legal education has had to shift online and its future is now much more uncertain. So let me start with some remarks on the short term of education and technology in COVID-19. It is not surprising to all of you that here in the UK, legal education, legal training, and legal services have continued entirely because of technology. University classes have all moved online. The British courts have had to quickly shift some legal procedures online. In all cases, initial exchange of arguments now takes place through a secure online channel. Court judges then decide cases on paper or, where they deem it necessary, ask for the case to proceed to video conference hearings. Only in extreme cases, for example, where a party is not able to access digital technology, does the court hold hearing in person. The role of technology in this short term has been critical. We have relied on digital technology, the use of email, of video conferencing, of websites for clients to initially approach us to continue our practice. At the same time, this short term has highlighted challenges for technology and education. Most importantly, especially in our area of legal training, where client data is confidential, the challenge of cybersecurity has been extremely important. Law firms across the UK are having to train staff on secure handling of data, while cyber attacks have increased in the COVID period. We ourselves have to ensure that we are maintaining tough controls on the security of our email accounts and are only transferring client documents through secure online systems. Beyond cyber security challenges, we are facing the challenge of reaching some clients who are not as comfortable with digital technology. For these clients, we have tried to find either non-digital technology, for example, mobile phone calls and texts, or safe, socially distanced ways of engaging in person. There are parallels here to think about for education institutions. How can we make sure that our new channels of technology allow everyone to participate? But that is all the experience in the first few months of COVID. We are now starting to slowly release the tightest aspects of COVID lockdown in the UK. As we do that, we are starting to find ways to use technology for a controlled return to legal services. Here, technology is playing two critical roles. First, technology is allowing us to efficiently filter those cases which need in-person interaction from those that do not. In our case, we are dealing with many matters, for example, residential property matters, almost entirely online. Immigration applications are being handled online, but some of the toughest cases are being handled by courts through video or in-person hearing. Technology has allowed to filter cases into these categories much more easily, saving us time and cost. Second, technology has also meant better use of data and convenience for clients using legal services. To take one example, the UK government has now noted that they already have old data on immigration clients from previous applications. Where this applies, they will use that same old data and not require the repeat input of biometric data. In a time of social distancing, this has been a huge saving of time, cost, and risk for clients. The economic impact of these things is worth bearing in mind. While COVID has definitely meant a fall in economic activity, including legal services, we have been able to continue our business in some form throughout the crisis. This is not as true across the economy or across education. For example, retail businesses and education sector focused on vocational training in person have really struggled. We know that law students graduating this year will especially struggle to find jobs and get the right initial training for their careers. That makes me turn to the long-term impact of COVID and how technology can play a role. Some of the changes I mentioned above will become long-term changes. As a law firm, we will now handle many more cases, documents, and exchanges online. British courts have already signaled that they will look to shift many more aspects of case proceedings to online. In education, schools will slowly return to teaching in person, but much more of the process of education, homework, document sharing, video recordings of classes will mean technology will play a major role in education. In the economy at large, the UK has seen online shopping grow in the last 3 months by as much as it grew in the last 5 years. We will all become much more used to working through the internet and video tools. A major opportunity this presents is in how far we can reach as educational and legal institutions. Already we are now engaging with clients across the world, for example, in the Middle East, in the same online way that we engage with local clients. We have found that the use of technology in this period has opened up many more avenues for us. The same applies to education. Just take this webinar today. Half of your speakers are from the UK, almost 10,000 kilometers away from where you are. Technology means that the constraints that applied before do not apply in the same way. A second opportunity is that technology allows us to personalize services. Before, our office was open from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. Clients had to come in that time, communicate in that time. Now, clients can send us documents and questions at a time of their convenience, and we respond in a tailored way using technology. In education, students are able to watch video recordings of class at a time that works best for their learning. Technology means personalized education. At the same time as these opportunities, there are challenges. One important challenge is ensuring that everyone can use technology. We have found that some clients, especially those without experience of fluent English or online technology, have struggled. Where possible, we are developing ways of making sure that these individuals are not left behind. In the future, translation technology and using simpler technology like mobile SMS messages can help make sure that everyone is able to fully participate in the law and in education. The second major challenge is that some things are still best done in person. Schools here have found exams challenging to administer perfectly online. It is hard to maintain consistency and rigor with online examinations. In our own practice, we have definitely found that some aspects of interaction with clients are weaker online than they are when you are face to face with a client. In courts, we still find that the nature of arguments and full appreciation of witness evidence is likely to be best done in person. Here, the key is for us to find technology that helps us return to in-person technology that complements face-to-face interactions, not technology that substitutes face-to-face interactions. Those are some initial reflects on the role of technology in education during COVID. I want to draw out just three main lessons. First, we should see this period as an opportunity. Despite the main challenges it has brought, the opportunities that technology now allows us to increase our scope of work much more. We can engage with all of you in Muzaffarpur from the UK. That is an opportunity we should try to grab in education and in legal services. Second, we should continue to see the challenge of making secure technology in education reaches everyone, not just those select few who are experts in using technology. And third, we should remember that technology can help us in this period of crisis, but it is best used to complement human face-to-face interactions and will not replace it. I am optimistic about the long-term impact that this period of necessary change has brought for all of us in the legal and education profession. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. You have suggested different solutions to meet the challenges from United Kingdom, sir. The institutions, still I'll be grateful to you. Once again, sir.
Thank you very much.
Once again, now our time comes. I would like to invite Mr. Kanishka Narayan, MBA from Stanford University, United States of America. Once upon a time, engaging in the Prime Minister's office in United Kingdom. I've heard your name. Respected sir, you are humbly requested to address and experience and share your experience. Thanks, sir. Please proceed ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to speak today, and great to be able to take part in this with all your other speakers as well. Look, I think you've heard already from the academic perspective at the beginning, and you've heard from the legal practitioner perspective. And so I thought I'd add two different viewpoints, one from the position of public policy and government here in the United Kingdom in particular, and then secondly, from the perspective of an investor in technology, which is currently the role I'm mostly engaged in. And so if I split my remarks into two of those, and if there are any questions, I'd love to answer questions at the end as well. But let me start first and foremost with the kind of big picture government take on the impact of COVID on education, and to the extent that it can be mitigated, how technology might help mitigate aspects of it. And I think there are three ways to think about kind of government position on this. One, a kind of short-term reaction to COVID and education. Second, a kind of recovery phase that we're currently starting to look at. And then third, a bit of a sense of long-term reform that we might consider. So the first of those, COVID has been one of the most significant economic crises for the last 100 years as far as the British economy is concerned. And in particular, it's been a crisis for education because unlike most other economic crises, we've actually had to shut schools entirely. This is most reminiscent probably of 1945 and the World War. In that sense, the kind of impact has been felt in most clearest form in terms of access to education. Schools have been shut in the UK for the last 4 months or so altogether, and are likely to be partially shut for the next term starting in September as well. So in the short term, the impact of COVID has been making government think about the short-term reaction. And there, I think a couple of things matter. First, in terms of access, a lot of teaching has had to move online. And the reality is, I think schools and higher education institutions were probably not adequately prepared for that. And so in large part, that has relied on either existing tools like Zoom or on particular tools built by external providers rather than institutions directly. And so what you found is large variability in the quality of that and the extent of its usage. Second, I think the major question here as far as education is concerned is the role of education as a pipeline for employment. And so historically, people have gone to school and university, picked up a range of functional skills, and then entered the labor market. Here you have one of the largest economic crises, and in turn, a labor market crisis. I think vacancies are at least a 25-year high in Britain, and unemployment is likely to be at a longer-term high as well. And so the big question is, how can universities and schools help students better prepare for jobs and enter jobs, many of which look very different from before, and many of which have now been lost? So the short-term kind of reaction that government has had is largely been focused on subsidies and support for institutions to react in terms of providing ongoing access to some form of education, starting to think a bit about job support and employment support, and then thirdly, starting to think a bit about access inequities as well. And that takes us into the next phase, which we're now starting to come into in the UK, where lockdown and the harshest constraints on COVID are starting to be relaxed to some extent, and we're starting to open up a bit more. And I think here there are two main focuses for government. One is in thinking very deeply about catching up on what has been lost in terms of quality of education. As I mentioned, by moving online, you've left out a number of students who don't have a computer or who don't have internet access. I think globally speaking, of all the people who are not going to school at the moment or higher education, 820 million of them don't have access to a computer. In the UK, many of them don't have access to a high quality broadband or internet connection. What that means is that the differences we see at home in terms of family context, in terms of family input into education, those differences get amplified and presented in educational outcomes. So a major focus for British government and public policy here in terms of COVID impact on education and technology is how can you come up with tools which get rid of that or plug some of the gap in the access inequities that we've observed over the course of the last 4 months and are likely to observe over the course of the next few too. And here, the specific response has been a series of very targeted funds which aim to capture those most poorest and in need and to provide them with subsidies for technological tools, one-to-one tuition or one-to-one mentoring, for example, that can help plug some of that gap. The second thing that we're now starting to see is a bit more of a focus on using technology that is more focused on employment-related education and training. And I think this is a major challenge, certainly for the United Kingdom, I suspect is an even larger challenge for India, where the jobs crisis is likely to be especially stark. And the question there is, how can higher education institutions like universities like yourself, but also schools and colleges prior to that, start to think much more about the education they're providing and links that they're providing to students with the labor market? How can they work much closer with employers to provide digital online internships and far better ways of doing on-the-job training than historically was the case? But look, I think those are kind of short-term reactions and recovery plans. I think the major question as far as public policy is concerned is a long-term question of reform. And in particular, the education sector is in a position of crisis in a way that it hasn't really been for a long, long time. And that crisis takes two forms. The first form of that crisis is a financial crisis. In Britain, for example, most of the universities are funded more and more through private fees rather than through public subsidy. The result of that is that it's in a particularly precarious position at the moment. So in the UK, for example, only about 15 years ago, we used to have very small amounts of funding from international students. Now there are at least 90 to 100,000 Chinese students in British universities every year, and they drive a lot of the funding base for universities. Right now, many of them are not coming to the UK for the upcoming term, and that creates a very significant financial gap for a number of universities across the country, especially the best universities. I think that financial crisis is compounded by the macroeconomic context. Most universities have pension deficits, and when their pension assets decrease in value as they have done in the current crisis, they face a very particular gap that needs to be plugged in part through the budgets that they have. And so the result of those two things, lowered international student input and a particular hit to pension valuations, those two things mean a major financial crisis for British universities. I think the second long-term challenge for British universities here and schools as well in some part is that competition from non-university providers is increasing and has been accelerated by COVID. And what I mean in particular is a range of providers, alternative learning providers, which provide much more personalized education. So for example, you have clearly a series of online providers that companies like mine invest in, which say Coursera and Udacity being the obvious examples, which provide a series of skills-based courses to you for you to learn from. But also employers in the British context are now partnering more and more with alternative providers to say, look, if people can't go to university in the same way or can't go to later stage school in the same way, we will create content that helps them far better prepare for jobs than universities can in this context. And I think what COVID has been able to do is by plugging the gap in education through technology has actually opened up that playing field and the market to far more alternative providers than your conventional higher education institutions as well. And so there's a big long-term reform agenda there, which is primarily focused on those two aspects. First, financial support and a different financial settlement, much more reliant on domestic funding than before. And second, a far greater level of competition as far as the higher education institution and market is concerned. So those are kind of some thoughts on what the government perspective is, which is, as I say, largely focused on three areas now. One, plugging access inequities, those who are most in need not getting the best education. Second, thinking about the finance settlement, can we have far greater public funding and direct grant funding rather than contingent funding? And third, thinking in particular about alternative provision, especially employment-focused alternative provision and competition in higher education. But my day-to-day role, I'm thinking much more equally about the direct role of investing in early-stage technology, and some of this will be very familiar to you from the Indian context, where much of this has been particularly advanced, actually, compared to the rest of the world. The way I think about that is in two particular ways. One is a series of technologies that support the existing system to do better. And so here, you obviously have a series of video conference providers like Zoom, but equally much more vertically specific education-focused ways of conducting secure assessments, secure document transfer. Canvas, for example, is a very good tool used by a number of universities. All tools which say, we will support the existing system of the existing university providers, the existing schools, to just shift online and provide education much better online. The second category of technology ideas that can help mitigate some of the crisis impact fall much more in disruption through alternative provision. And so here, what you have is a series of providers that say, instead of partnering with existing schools or universities, we will create our own tools and our own content to be able to do this far better. And I think that is the real kind of potential for where education goes over the next 5 to 10 year period as a result of this crisis. You're seeing already a number of companies, as I was saying, moving their training programs online. You've seen a number of alternative providers in the UK and US in particular, which have been able to gain traction. So a lot of coding schools, for example, that say, instead of spending 3 years going through an online education in a university, we will provide you with a crash course for a 6-month period in low-level JavaScript coding that can get you into a job far quicker and better. And I think that is the area that, as a sort of technology investor, I'm mostly thinking about at the moment, which is combination of online vocation-focused education, and secondly, very personalized, scalable, and data-driven education that allows you to target a student's learning in light of their particular needs rather than in light of what a 50-person class will require. So I'm conscious that's quite a lot. So let me sum up by capturing both the government perspective and the investor perspective. The starting position is that this has been a big crisis for education in the UK. It's been a crisis in terms of finances. It's been a crisis in terms of education quality. And it's been a crisis in terms of job prospects and job impacts. I think from a government perspective, there are two main questions to think about here. One, the financial question of what the funding settlement looks like for education institutions in Britain going forward. And second, what the competitive playing field looks like for British education, and in particular for technology-driven providers in that over the course of the next 5 to 10 years in particular. From an investment point of view, the thing I'm most excited about is in part technology tools that help existing institutions deliver education more effectively through online means. But far greater, I'm excited about disruptive tools that come in and actually change who delivers education, so that people are not just going to the old conventional universities and conventional late-stage schools, but instead are pivoting much more to these shorter, more flexible, more personalized education providers that are far closer to the labor market and in terms of the jobs impact that they might have. That's all for me. I'm very open to any questions that people have and answering anything that's on people's minds over the course of the next 10 minutes or so that we've got left.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, Mr. Kanishka Kumar. You have suggested. Yeah. Hey. Thanks. Okay, over, sir. Thanks a lot. Very impressive and inspiring speech you have delivered. The institution is grateful to you. Second, and I think you join and further program. I have been requesting you in advance. The program is still going on. I would like to read a poem written by William Wordsworth. In the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not the dumb-driving cattle, be the hero in the strife. Anyway, I would like to say to the students, any questions? If they want to raise your hand. Any questions among the student side? If you are willing to ask any questions, honorable speakers are remaining online. Please raise your hand. Okay. Seat ahead. Now the time is of vote of thanks. Vote of thanks. I would like to invite Professor B.M. Azad, our elder brother, Mr. B.M. Azad, Vice Principal. You are humbly, if you listen to me, sir, please express.
President and Secretary of Law College, respected guest speakers, Mr. Santosh Kumar, partner and solicitor at Chetna and Company, solicitors in Cardiff, United Kingdom, Professor Dr. Ajay Kumar, Professor of Law, Chanakya National Law University, Patna, member, Bihar State Law Commission, Mr. Kanishk Narayan, advisor, Secretary of State, United Kingdom, Technology and Financial Services, focused investor at economy, and respected director, principal, teachers, and participants. Today's role of technology in education during COVID-19 most impressive, as well as people all over the are suffering from the curse of COVID-19. It has been difficult for the Indian education system to adapt and run further. When this pandemic has made all of us teachers stay at home, study has emerged as a wonderful tool and effective online education and help us all continue the studies and move on with the syllabus. Thus, it is not as hard now to conduct online classes, wonderful, helpful webinar and other activities regarding the education. I am grateful to the guest speakers and other respected who have pleasured all of us with their valuable time and words to make the webinar a success. I am also thankful to the teachers and students for their participation, without whom this webinar could have not been expected. Thank you all once again.
ये आंसर दो नहीं वीडियो नहीं
मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता झारखंड गुजरात मराठा
जनगण मन
सुख नाम जागे आशीष मांगे आए सब जन गाथा जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता हे जय हे जय 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 हे
जय